beneath the dogwood, missing in plain dealing. Chief Roland Hayes had lived all his 62 years in plain dealing, Louisiana, and the town had grown around him like the dogwoods, stretching their twisted arms through the fading autumn air. September 1976 had settled across the pine woods and down the dirt roads, and the cusp of fall brought a quiet warning, heavy, distant, something sharp beneath the hum of cicadas and the first scatter of dry leaves. He drove the old Ford along the shade-dappled parish road, sunlight flickering on the dash. There was an unhurried weight in his hands, resting on the wheel, thumb rhythmically tracing the cracked patch near the ignition. For most, his measured pace was reassurance. For others, frustration. But no one doubted the chief's word was law, nor his loyalty to plain dealing. Chief Hayes pulled into the gravel lot beside the modest town hall, a low brick building that stood at the heart of plain dealing's routine. He found his coffee-strong, black, with salty grits on a napkin at his desk in the small office reserved for the chief's work. There was a quiet ritual to the start of his day, as deliberate and persistent as his stride. But today, the phone sat mute between the reports and stray bulletins. He didn't need the phone. The knock came soon enough. Officer Bobby Tate, young and raw, hovered at the threshold. Bobby's hair was rumpled, and his eyes too wide for dawn. Hayes met him with a slow glance, half amusement and half calculation. "Morning, son," Roland said, voice like slow gravel over stone. "Chief, you heard about the Simmons and Cormier kids?" Bobby asked, trying to disguise the tremor in his voice. Hayes frowned. "Not yet. What's going on?" Bobby shifted. "They didn't come home last night. Doris Simmons came by early, said her boy Daniel left after lunch to walk with Anna Cormier down to the sandbar on the Red River. They took the trail through the woods on Miller's Bluff. Planned to be back before dark, but neither came home." Hayes set down the coffee, pushing aside the plate to clear his paperwork. "Doris came by?" "First thing. Anna's Mama Rosa called a few minutes later." Both rattled Chief. Hayes stood up slow, spine creaking. He ran a hand over his jaw, as if thinking it could dislodge some truth. "How long they been gone?" "Supposed to be home by 7 at the latest. Chief, always get home before the sun drops behind the pines. Let's go," Hayes said, already reaching for his hat. Outside, the day had grown bright and uneasy. Bobby climbed into the passenger seat, gun holster clinking against the vinyl. Roland drove, windows down, even as the muggy air pressed in. The land was pine and brush, rural roads winding through thick stands of trees. A watcher, always. They found the Simmons house first, double-wide shaded by pecans. Doris was standing on her stoop. Roland saw the pain on her face, all the sharp lines drawn by worry. "Roland," she called, voice straining. He knelt before her, expected and gentle. "Morning, Doris. Tell me everything." She tried to speak and pressed her hands over her mouth. He just wanted to show Anna the river. "Chief, they always said the sandbar was the best spot. Took the old trail through Miller's Bluff. Planned it days ago. Said he'd be back by dinner." Bobby watched, silent. Hayes took Doris's hand, steady as iron. "Let's start with his room. Mind if I look?" Doris led them inside. Daniel's room was a jumble of thrift banners, baseball mitts, and stacks of old records, Creedence, Zeppelin, and the Eagles. Hayes examined the bed, scattered with school books. On Daniel's desk was a calendar, a scrawled note, 3 p.m. Meet Anna, Sandbar. He found a map, folded beneath the pillow. The trail to Miller's Bluff and the sandbar was marked in blue ink. Some newer pen marks traced into woods southeast of town toward Dogwood Hollow, a place where old stories gathered. Did Daniel mention going anywhere besides the sandbar? Doris shook her head. Not to me. He took his pocket knife, said it got thick along the trail. Wanted Anna to see the old dogwood. some tale from his granddad about treasures or ghosts. Hayes pocketed the map. "I'll bring them home, Doris." Next, he and Bobby drove to the Cormier Ranch on the edge of the parish boundary. Rosa Cormier waited, hands on her hips, mouth a thin line. Anna's room was neater. 2 dresses hung on the closet. A note left beside her lamp. Daniel, Miller's Bluff Trail. Home by 7. Rosa handed over Anna's wristwatch, left behind. "She never goes anywhere without it," she said, voice taut. Hayes walked outside, looking at the horizon. "Bobby," he said, "let's start with the sandbar." They parked beneath 2 faded pines just off Miller's Bluff, wild grass brushing their boots as they entered the woods. Hayes watched the ground. Tire ruts old and new, footprints 2 sets, sneakers. "Kids went in together," he remarked. The trail narrowed, winding deeper. Near Dogwood Hollow, they passed the old dogwood tree, no longer in bloom, its bark pale and rough, its branches mostly bare and scraggly, a few spotted leaves fluttering down and gathering in clumps around the base. The scatter of pale leaves drifted around the roots, blending into the dry grass and hinting at the season's change. There was a clearing, and something caught Hayes's eye, a torn scrap of Anna's dress, blue cotton, snagged on a blackberry bush. He knelt and examined it, eyes sharpening. "Bobby, you see that?" He pointed, a boot print 2 deep, fresh beside the kid's tracks. "Someone else?" Bobby asked. Hayes nodded, face door. "Could be a hunter. Or not." He marked the scene with a circle of stones, slow and patient. "Let's follow their trail toward the river," Hayes said. They moved deeper, where sunlight filtered thick through trees. Hayes listened. Birds, distant gunshots, no voices. The path zigzagged. Something silvery glimmered, a necklace. Anna's locket snapped open. He bagged it carefully. "Anna's," he confirmed. Further on, the prints became hurried, like fear had entered, pushing the children faster toward the river. Hayes's heart pounded, the air closing in. "Let's check the sandbar itself," Hayes suggested. The sandbar stretched along the Red River, sun-baked and silent. Empty bottles and boot prints littered the sand. Hayes crouched and spotted a scorched piece of fabric, the edge of a jersey. Daniel's name, half burned. "Chief, we should call for bloodhounds," Bobby said, voice shaky. Hayes nodded. "We will. But let me think." He sat on a driftwood log, hat off, thumbs working the brim. Clues mounting. Map, prints, scrap of dress, locket, jersey. But nothing revealed intent or direction, just fragments of fear and hope. He let the silence surround him, then stood. "Let's bring in the dogs. And keep it quiet, Bobby. No newspapers, no radio." Bobby nodded and drove back to town. Hayes stayed a while, eyes on river bends, the dogwood tree distant with bare limbs and falling leaves, old stories echoing lost children, missing treasures. Finally, he returned to the cruiser, drove slow, each crack in the pavement familiar. Night fell uneasy over plain dealing. Hayes wrote a report in his town hall office, each detail noted with care. He recalled stories from his own youth, the hollows, the warnings his grandpa whispered. But the shadows felt closer, the town smaller. He called Reverend Andrews at the church, briefed him with sparse words. "Reverend, pray for him, and for whoever's out there." He called in the bloodhounds from Shreveport, set Bobby and 2 other officers to watch the edges of town. He walked home in the darkness, passing the dogwood tree rising pale and skeletal against the gloom, leaves drifting down in the stubborn warmth of the lingering summer. Hayes barely slept. At dawn, he returned to Miller's Bluff, boots crushing dew-damp grass. The dogs swept in circles, noses sharp tracking, searching. Hayes counted every clue, mind weaving paths through years of memory. In a stretch of cattails near the riverbank, the dogs paused, barking. Hayes hurried over, heart heavy. The area was disturbed, a mess of leaves, a torn shoelace, a wrapper from a candy bar sold only at Winham's grocery. Hayes picked it up, looking for fingerprints, smudges, anything. There were no other signs that morning, just emptiness and uncertainty, the woods refusing to yield their secrets. He returned to Doris and Rosa, uncompromising kindness in his face. "We found clues," he said, voice low. "Daniel's jersey, Anna's locket." They went toward the river. "The dogs are tracking." Doris broke down then, hands shaking, and Rosa embraced her, both mournful and expectant. "We'll bring them home," Hayes promised, with the gravity only 60 years of living could provide. 3 days passed, slow as syrup. Each morning, Hayes led new searches, asking questions from the gas station to the diner. He found out Daniel fought with another boy a few days prior over a rumor. Anna's best friend said she'd seen a pickup truck near Miller's Bluff Trail, its paint scraped and tailgate rusting. Hayes checked vehicle records from the parish, found 2 pickups matching the description. One belonged to Marvin Toms, a loner and hunter. The other to Billy Polk, horse breeder. Hayes knocked at Billy's old house first. Billy met him with a puzzled smile. "Chief, this about the missing kids?" Hayes nodded, eyes boring. "When's the last time you saw Daniel or Anna?" Billy scratched his head. "Not since the spring festival. My truck's been busted a week." Roland made a note, thanked him, searching for lies but found none. Next, he visited Marvin Toms. The land was wild, broken fences and barking dogs. Marvin answered, sunglasses on, voice rough. "Kids? Didn't see 'em? Was hunting up Robinson Ridge last night." Hayes looked at Marvin's hands, grimy, cut, a bandage beneath the knuckles. "Hunt go bad?" Roland asked. Marvin shrugged. "Rabbit bit me." Roland let it sit, mind working. He eyed the truck, fresh mud on the tires. "Mind if I look at your truck?" Marvin hesitated. "Go ahead." Hayes checked the bed, found a blue thread caught beneath the tailgate. He bagged it, made no accusation. "Take care, Marvin," he said. Later, back at the town hall, Hayes studied the clues. The rhythm of days, the ache of searching. He waited for the lab report. The thread matched Anna's dress. Bobby entered, paper in hand. "Got a tip, Chief. Old lady on Buckshot Road saw 2 kids near the river Sunday night. Said they looked lost." Roland nodded. "Good work, Bobby. Let's check the riverbank tomorrow." He stepped outside, the air thick with dusk, every sound a question. The old dogwood tree shimmered, branches nearly bare with scattered leaves at its feet, and Hayes felt the weight of every soul in plain dealing against his shoulders. To be continued?